If there's one thing that's for certain is that the Transformers Bumblebee movie has done its fair share of confusing all fans on whether or not this is a reboot or a prequel. Some will strongly defend that this is a prequel, some will strongly defend that this is a reboot. I think, well, this film doesn't really know what it wants to be, and the producers don't really know what it wants to be either, which is why they cut this film 50-50 on cutting out a lot of links to the 2007 movie, like that deleted Megatron scene, where we would have seen him as MBE-1 at Sector 7, and added that post-credit scene of Optimus Prime and Bumblebee at the end of the movie, seeing the Autobots arrive to Earth in 1980s. And while the movie still has its links to the original Transformers live-action franchise, there's a lot set up in this movie that demands it to be a reboot. And most defenders of this being a prequel is, well, they've never really cared for continuity anyway. And that's true, almost every live-action Transformers movie has contradicted the next. And well, a large majority of fans really do want this to be a reboot. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why they should go forward with this being a full-on reboot. Now, we've got news already that an Optimus Prime solo movie is in the works. They're not quite sure how they're going to do it yet, because producer has described him as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and well, how do you make an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie? Well, if you know anything about the Optimus Prime character, there's a lot to that guy that you can make a movie about. But I'm going to try and connect an Optimus Prime solo movie to the Bumblebee movie that could initially set it up, because I really don't want a Bumblebee sequel. I'm going to do a video later on how I'm going to explain why I don't want a Bumblebee sequel, but I do want a sequel set in the world of Bumblebee. Because I think the next movie we should be getting is an Optimus Prime solo movie, and I think it could really start off where we last saw Optimus Prime on Cybertron. When Bumblebee's message of Optimus Prime is reactivated by Charlie, we get introduced to what happened to Optimus Prime after Bumblebee left Cybertron. And while we just see him being a badass, knocking Decepticons backwards and forwards. But the flashback ends rather abruptly, and one I really didn't like in the movie, because I'm like, well, what happened next? Soundwave ejected Ravage and was attacking Optimus Prime, and that got him surrounded by a bunch of Decepticons charging towards him, and then the flashback ends. And I'm just like, okay, are we going to come back to that scene? What happened? And I feel like this would be the perfect place to start out the Optimus Prime solo movie. Because at the end of the Bumblebee prequel, we see the Autobots coming towards Earth. And that would be a good setup for the next big Transformers movie. And while Paramount are doing like experiments on solo characters, like with Bumblebee, and the potential of an Optimus Prime, we don't really know if that's going to go forward in production. We know they're planning it, but whether or not it's actually going to be greenlit, like, okay, we're going forward with this, they just need a plan first, and we really do need a good reboot plan if they decide to go in the direction of a reboot. I know it's unfortunate that they didn't finish off that arc at the end of Transformers Last Night, but to be honest, if you kind of forget that whole Quintessa post-credit scene, it really can finish off the Michael Bay live-action series in a kind of good way. So like how Bumblebee crashed on Earth and had a sort of insomnia episode, I feel like with Optimus Prime, not to go totally insomnia, but I feel like what happened to Prime next would really be a good setup, like, oh, maybe he was prisoned, for a little bit, he was captured, and the movie's about him escaping and going out and finding other Autobots, and maybe, just maybe, he comes across Megatron, because what the Bumblebee movie did was completely get rid of the fact that humans have prior knowledge of Transformers. So when we see Shatter and Dropkick for the first time, dialogue was actually altered to make it seem like, oh my god, we're seeing these live action monsters, and it's not like they've got one cooked up in their basement somewhere, which would have been obviously Megatron. They completely removed the dialogue that they already knew of Transformers existing. So Megatron's place in this world is really not yet determined. That's why I said they went 50-50 on if they're going to go with a prequel or a reboot with this film, like decide what it's finally going to be. By the factor of getting rid of Megatron, we got that amazing Transformers Cybertron scene in the beginning of a Bumblebee movie, and there's no Megatron, which is just weird. And we know he was originally a part of that scene. Travis Knight drew up a storyboard where he would have appeared like Sauron, just blowing shit up, in Travis Knight's words. So where exactly is Megatron if this is to be really determined as a reboot? Well, I really think he could be out there somewhere. With this war raging on for so long, something probably happened to Megatron. Either he's on Earth, either they decide to go with that, either they could set up the next big Transformers movie. I really don't want that to be the case though. I really want Megatron to be out in space, and it could really be a good follow-in with the Optimus Prime solo movie as Optimus Prime escapes and he's looking for different kinds of Autobots, as he's trying to get them all together. And I feel like that would be a great way to end the movie, and the Optimus Prime solo movie is where he actually gets the Autobots together and we see him crash to Earth, and then obviously he sends the signal like, okay, it's all in the clear, Bumblebee's here, Bumblebee's safe, come on down, and then it can really wrap up really well. And whether or not Optimus Prime knows that Megatron's going to be on his way, which is why he sends all those Autobots at the end, I don't know, there's a lot of things they could do with the plot. But not having Megatron involved in the Optimus Prime solo movie would be a really big mistake, because Megatron is a big part of Optimus Prime's origins, if they go with the G1 origin route. But it doesn't matter which origins of Optimus Prime there is, Megatron has always been a part of it in some way. He's kind of what made Optimus Prime happen. And I think they should definitely go with the G1 route, because as Optimus Prime's on his journey during the solo movie, I feel like with the Bumblebee movie we get flashbacks, and with Optimus Prime's flashbacks it should be about him being around PAX. Maybe Optimus Prime is remembering certain things. Like said, who knows, when Optimus Prime is captured by the Decepticons, he manages to break free, manages to escape, but then he like crash lands on a planet and the Decepticons can't seem to find him, and as Optimus Prime's kind of in a broken state, as he's kind of like unconscious a little bit, it can then fade into the flashback, the origins of Optimus Prime, and go through that entire, sort of scene, that big, like, it could take up a good 15 minutes of a movie, and then it can fade out and we get back to Optimus Prime waking up from the crash pod or whatever, and his journey continues. I just don't want it to be set on Earth. I feel like the last time we saw Optimus Prime on Cybertron would be a fantastic way to start the story of the Optimus Prime solo movie. How did Optimus Prime escape? He was surrounded by Shockwave, Soundwave, Starscream, all the Decepticons, Shatter, Dropkick. How did he get out of there? We need to know. You can't just say, oh yeah, a character can just escape like that and it's just left to your imagination. It's like, no, that's not a good story. That's not a good narrative piece. Just saying that a character can do certain things. It's like, no, how did he get out of there? Of course, a budget for the Optimus Prime solo movie would probably be a bit higher than Bumblebee, considering the CGI, with it being really expensive. We got 5 to 6 minutes of Cybertron in the Bumblebee movie, and well, you could say the budget really went into those scenes. But it can be done. We know they're planning on doing a Cybertron animated movie, but I feel like that's more during the war, not after the war. I don't want them to merge them concepts together. I want them to be their own thing, the Optimus Prime solo movie and the Cybertron movie. Because Peter Cullen really does deserve to be the front center, of his own movie with Optimus Prime, and we know he wants it, so just give Peter Cullen what he wants. But I think now, with the Bumblebee movie coming out, it's really going to take Paramount a long time to really decide what they're going to do, and especially with the Optimus Prime solo movie potentially being made and being greenlit. I'm just saying, for my plan, get the Transformers Cybertron movie out of the way first, and then the Optimus Prime solo movie, and then the next big Transformers movie, which could take place right after Bumblebee in the 1980s. I mean, they could really bring back Charlie Watson, but I really wouldn't want them to do that, because I feel like her character arc was ended kind of perfectly, so bringing her back would be kind of like, oh, okay, but if, like I said, it makes sense, and we know they have plans for a Bumblebee sequel, and I'm going to do a video, like I said, about why I think they shouldn't do a sequel to Bumblebee, why they should do a sequel within the world, not Bumblebee specifically. I'm not saying they can't do a Bumblebee sequel in the future, I'm just saying at this minute, I don't think it's really necessary. Anyway guys, that's how I would set up the Transformers reboot and selling this world, how I would go about it. Of course there's more to go on about, but I don't want to think too much ahead and just sort of talk about what we already know about this universe, like the potential of the Bumblebee sequel, Optimus Prime solo movie, and the Cybertron movie. Let's just talk about those films at the minute, and then you can throw in the possible, like, oh yeah, we'll get a next big Transformers movie down the line, set in the 80s, just where the sequel Bumblebee left off. I really don't want this to be a prequel. Although they've gone 50-50 on it, I just think this really needs to be a reboot, and everything in this movie screams reboot. Anyway guys, this has been Common and Cam. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I said, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell to get all updates instantly. Until the next video, goodbye.